Another message, and I don't know. I'm just gonna act like it's genuine. I'm not gonna act like it's disingenuine. But I was asked a question by a white guy. Why don't the protests today look like they did in the 1960s? It's a relatively easy question to answer, but there are some nuances and some complexities. But once I lay it out and explain it, you either understand it or you don't. Okay, the first part is today's generation. When I say today's, I mean like within a 30-year span. Today's generation saw that the civil rights movement didn't accomplish much other than integration socially, but not integrating economically. When you go back and you look at the videos of the way that black people were being treated in the 1960s, Martin Luther King, black people were always out there dressed in their Sunday's best. It's not that rioting didn't go on back then, but rioting happened after their leaders were killed. Martin Luther King was killed. Malcolm X was killed. The riots happened after their leaders were killed. And then, not to mention, you do have incidences where people just get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And when black people have population majority, they're not going to put up with that shit when they know that they outnumber you, whatever number it is, in terms of population and whatnot. Like, especially in situations of police brutality. The other thing people keep saying is, they burned down their own communities. No, they did not burn down their own communities because they didn't own any of those. They didn't own the property. They didn't own the businesses. They did not burn down their own communities because they didn't own those communities. They simply lived there. So white people running around talking about burning down your own communities, that is a fallacy. But getting back to the main question of why it doesn't look like the way it looks in the past. Well, again, black people saw the previous generation, do all that. They saw all the ass kissing and, trying to be accepted by white people in white society, and white people turned around and gave them their ass to kiss. These are generations that fought wars and died. And despite all of that, still, white folks turn around and give them their ass to kiss. Then on top of that, the police brutality and all that. So today's generation is like, nah, man, fuck that. The other thing, and this is the key point, is that the black community has pretty much all but been destroyed. There are no real black communities that function as communities do or should function. You just simply have black neighborhoods. So there's no centralized leadership. There's internal distrust. Many of the so-called black leaders from the civil rights movement, two of which who recently died and more to come, they sold the black community out. They started to, pander to, the powers that be. They started putting white envelopes in their jacket as opposed to the people who voted them into office. Because you have to recognize that the black community does not have anything to offer its politicians. When white politicians go up there, white people expect the politicians to do X, Y, and Z, not just based off of the vote, but based off of, the behind the door deals, money being moved in such and such a direction and whatnot, and resources being allocated in a certain direction, and this sort of quid pro quo. The white community has a robust business sector that can pay for the media, pay for the propaganda, get all the average everyday working class white people to believe a certain thing and that they must vote for this party because of X, Y, and Z. And, they think it's to their benefit. They'll go in there and they'll vote that way. And, then big business will come in and then be like, okay, well, this is what we want. This is what we want. And, the people, the white people might get, one out of the 5 things that are on the list, and big business is getting 4 out of the 5 things that are on the list. And then, that'll be claimed to be a win-win. But your average white person doesn't see that. They see that one thing on the list and they don't get anything else, and they don't really recognize it because, like example, build a wall. All Donald Trump had to do is build the wall, and there'd be a bunch of white people that would be satisfied, even though that has no direct impact on their jobs or the economy or whatever. It has no direct impact on them. You'll have people saying that don't even really work in the field that immigrants are able to even work in, right? or the job is so beneath them they wouldn't work that job anyway, even if it was offered up, because that job is beneath them, right? Like picking strawberries or some shit like that. So what else? There was another point that I was going to make about the whole lack of community thing. Like, you got people that are going up there, and sometimes I look at black people like, they don't understand the optics. The people that are out there on the streets, by and large, people say, oh, they got a lot of heart and all this other shit. What are you doing? That's the classic thing. But a lot of these people have no game plan. It's just an emotional response, and it's not well thought out, and they go out there, and then Fox News or whoever or whatever other conservative channels go and they use whatever bad behavior that they see, highlight that, and then run back to the white people and say, oh, see, look, this isn't about this is just lawlessness, right? And they go and they point that out, right? And then at the end of the day, the whole message about what the issue is to begin with is just broken. And then you roll into the classic birth of a nation stereotypes. Oh, the black people, that's why we should have kept them slaves, and they don't know how to behave or operate, yada yada yada, and all that other shit, right? Completely ignoring the fact that there are a lot of black people who don't operate and think and behave like white people coming from a structured white society, because structured white society is a society and a community that has access to resources and capital. And so it always boggles my mind, and I know what it comes down to. The idea that, well, I don't feel that those people deserve X, Y, and Z. They don't deserve this. This is for us, and they just need to accept their lot in life and stay where they are and behave according to us. White people are the Tomi Lahren's of the world. Like Tomi Lahren shit that she did with bitching about men are trash and all that other shit. That's generally what white people are, to black people, where they come through with all these fucking unrealistic ass demands and shit, right? The situation and circumstance isn't the same, right? You got men going MGTOW and saying that they don't want to, they're tired of these bitches and all the shit. And then what do women say? Women jump up and women will say, or like Tomi Lahren, it's because they're weak, or they're not mature, or they're this, that, and the third, right? They start making up all these fucking justifications and reasons as to why, white men are not doing, because let's face it, she was talking about white men, all these reasons as to why, white men aren't giving them, what they want and all this other shit and everything else, right? Completely ignoring the valid points that white men or any group of men have about why they don't want to get married, and child support, and unfair custody laws, right? Which is basically akin to unfair justice in the legal system. I mean, what's the difference between a situation where you have, a black person be killed and it doesn't go to trial, or they get off, or there's a delay of justice, like what you see with the McMichaels, or Rodney King, and all the police officers get acquitted and shit like that, versus a man that just gets destroyed, in court, in custody battles. Like, what is the difference? You're getting fucked in the court. You know what I mean? So I'm saying, like, that's how black people look at white people and the system of white supremacy. Like, they go up there and they bitch, and they're like, they need to behave and they need to act like this and da-da-da-da-da. And it's no different than Tomi Lahren throwing a hissy fit. With her, non-contextualizing, why men are like, nah, fuck that. Like, we're not doing it with we're not messing around with these women. Ignoring the fact that, Tomi Lahren is just a sassy ass white bitch that, she ain't getting with no man's program, let alone a white man. She ain't getting with no man's program. You know what I mean? She got her own money. She doing her own shit. She doing her own thing. She's not going to be cooperative to the white patriarchy, and then her, any man that's with her is going to have to deal with the consequences, of her loud mouth, and even the consequences as it pertains to, whatever children they have. Because Tommy, I'm pretty sure in the future she's going to fuck up and say some sideways shit like a Laura Ingraham. And, if you're a white man and you're going to work every day and you got to come home to your kids being harassed in school by the other kids because of some out-of-pocket shit that she said that, hit the news, whether it was accurate or misconstrued, however it is. I'm saying she's a public figure. She talks shit. And so as a result, not everybody's going to like her. And if you go and you get married to Tomi Lahren and you have kids by her, you got to deal with all that bullshit. And then not only that, you're obligated to deal with all the bullshit because of the fact that, you're the man, right? Like she can go out there and talk all the dumbass shit that she wants to talk, and then have, a bunch of picketers outside your house, and then, look to you like, well, you need to protect me, and if you don't, you're weak. You know what I mean? So it's like, man, fuck that shit. But I'm just saying, that's how white people are, when it comes to black people. There's no contextualizing, just throwing a hissy fit, throwing a tantrum, filing the complaint, and not even considering, what the other side feels, why they're responding in the manner that they're responding. Again, just look at the freaking, the white feminism, and look at how the MGTOWs have responded. And look at when the white feminism makes videos about white MGTOWs. They make all these assumptions about why white men are not doing X, Y, and Z, and you're a man boy, and why men have dove into freaking Xbox and all that other shit. And then you get freaking, Jordan Peterson, who acts like the Malcolm X of the white male community, who tells white women very clearly why they have a problem with white women and feminism and what's going on and everything else like that. And you see all the mental gymnastics that white women do on TV. That's the same shit that white people do to black people when black people file a grievance about why, they've disengaged from the system, or why they go out here and sell drugs, or why, there's violence in the black community, the way that there is. They just dismiss it, and they go, well, I know the answer, right? Because white people want to control, the discussion from both ends, of the conversation. They want to control it on their end, and they want to control it on the other end, telling black people how they should feel and how they should react and respond. And so, these are the issues that I see, but in terms of, black people and them responding a certain way and all that, there's no centralized centralized organization on how anything is supposed to go down, aside from the fact that, again, Black Lives Matter go to the website, read the main page, read the about page, and read the her story page. It's not about black men. It's not about George Floyd. The whole page reads like some, feminist LGBT form Voltron type of shit. Right? But yet on the news and in the name of the organization, which I think is a horrible name of the organization, because it's just like, not only is it in your face, it's like the term, it's like, regardless of whatever happens, good, bad, or indifferent, it's Black Lives Matter. It's like, it's like, yo, like, and as a black person, you sitting there like, yo, I ain't co-sign this shit. You know what I mean? But it doesn't matter. Good, bad, or Black Lives Matter, not a specific organization. No, Black Lives Matter. So it's immediately associated. Oh, this is black people. Regardless of how many white people are out there, regardless of how many other people, because the shit is global. It doesn't matter. It's black people. Black people are the problem. Black people did this. Black people spray painted that wall. Black people burnt this building down. Black people, black people, black people, black people, black people. That's the problem with the fucking organization. Okay? You know, and because people like they think that they can. I mean, you see this with the bills, like the even bills that are passed. You know, they got this this new bill that they're trying to pass. You know, which is basically a federal castle doctrine, which I agree with. I don't know why black people don't support castle doctrine or stand your ground. The issue is the application of the law. The issue is not that it gives, you know, white people a free pass to kill black people without any fear of consequence. That's the no. You know, if some Ku Klux Klan members showed up at my house and I stood outside, you know, my house with my AR-15 like the McCloskeys or whatever, I should not go to jail. Period. I don't care, you know, all this, you know, you know, we have a right to not be intimidated. Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? But you know, like they got this new bill called like the what is it called? I don't know. It's like Mr. Guns and Gadgets was talking about it. Or is it Guns and Gear? I think it's Guns. No, it's Guns and Gadgets. Anyway, you know, he was talking about it. It's like the Protect Your Home Self-Defense Act or something like that. You know, and you see this with every town for gun safety, right? And it's like, you know, like if you're against every town for gun safety, like, you know, you're against gun safety? You know what I mean? Black Lives Matter. That's supposed to be the intent, right? Like, so if you're against Black Lives Matter, you're against Black Lives Mattering? You know what I mean? So, but it's just stupid because it's stupid and it's clever at the same time. It's stupid because you can't address the shit without being accused of some bullshit, or it's brilliant because that's what it's designed to do, to avoid all criticism so that you can't criticize, you know, what you're witnessing. You know what I'm saying? You can't criticize any aspect about it. So, but yeah, there's no centralized anything when it comes to what's going on out here in the streets. You know what I mean? You know, they showed that with the Inglewood situation where you had some people who, you know, they didn't want the Black Lives Matter coming into their community, you know, with their whatever issues, the protest about the police and whatnot. Not because of ideas of looting. I mean, the looters and the Black Lives Matter they're separate groups. I understand that there's intersectionality, and then you might have a couple people within Black Lives Matter or claim Black Lives Matter that go out there and loot and shit like that. But like, where are the videos of literally people walking around with picket signs that say Black Lives Matter, and then they put the picket signs down and then start looting? Like that, like you're talking two different groups of people. But again, the media on the right wants to conflate because, you know, their agenda is, you know, catering to white audiences, so that's what they're going to push. But anyway, something I was going to say. I was just about to say something and it slipped my mind about the looters, the rioters, the protest, and them going out there. I forget what I was going to say about it. I mean, there's no centralized, you know, anything, you know, without having a community, unlike back in the 60s, you know, everybody felt the effects of being discriminated against in the system of, you know, American apartheid, Jim Crow. Everybody felt the effects of that. And again, back then you still had intact homes. You still had communities where, you know, kids were acting up. They could get their ass beat by men internally in the community. That shit is done with. You know, now, you know, you have all type of gunplay. You know, the main thing that changed in the black community is the proliferation of guns and the anybody can get it mentality and muscle. Because starting with my generation, you know, my generation really hit the gym. The days of, you know, some 50-year-old black man, you know, beating your ass, you know, beating a 20-year-old's ass just because he's older and got more size, that shit is over. Once brothers started going to jail in the 90s, you know, I say starting with like 1990 to like 1996 was when, like, you know, just this whole proliferation of, you know, cock strong dudes started coming out. I mean, when you go back, I got a picture of some OG gangsters, from Cali and whatnot. And I mean, these dudes are massive. They're like Tookie Williams. I mean, they're just massive. Like you would have thought that they were what do you call it? They were exercising for or competing for Mr. Olympian and shit. I mean, this shit is just, it's ridiculous. But damn, what was I gonna say? There was a point that I was gonna make about the difference in in generations. It's just certain things are just not going to work anymore. The idea of just, you go out there and protest, white people say, oh, our bad, and then they stop what they're doing. Like, people don't have any faith in that anymore. People look at it like, well, fuck it, burn this motherfucker down. Like, that's how they look at it. They're like, fuck it. What white people don't understand is they do not understand what it's like to exist with hopelessness, a hopeless condition. White people, no matter where they are, they can always look up and they can always see, some other white person in control or white person at the top, and they're comfortable with that. They're like, okay, I can make it. You know what I mean? Like, even that guy that got canceled for, again, I got a video talking about cancel culture. Even that guy that got canceled, for, yelling at the girl at Chick-fil-A, taking out his anger on the girl at Chick-fil-A because, he felt that they were, an anti-gay organization or whatever. I mean, he lost hope, but then, like, he somehow got it back. Like, white people don't understand that there's a lot of black people that, they were born to the wrong parents. Like, as we like to say all the time, you picked the wrong parents. A lot of people's only crime is that they were born, to the wrong parents. Like, if your parents don't do the right thing, if they fuck up, if they don't build the nest, if they don't give you a proper foundation, this whole notion that, everybody can just, that there's like all these upward ladders that allow for upward mobility and everybody can just go out here and, just work hard and get over it is bullshit. Okay, most people will drown. Most people will flounder. It serves no purpose to sit there and say, it's possible and only like 10% of motherfuckers make it out. That's dumb. That's dumb. It's not, the way society is structured. If you are born into a family where your parents, fuck up, you may not immediately, die or of starvation or something like that. You know what I mean? But you're not going to end up much further than where you started. I grew up in the burbs. I saw white kids that, they were doing drugs. They were all fucked up, bad grades, got wealthy ass parents and just fucking up, parents buying them brand new 3 Series BMWs, crash the motherfucker up and get a new one the next day. Why? Because they were racing. Just shit like that. Like, just growing up, DUIs, all type of stuff, just out here fucking up in ways in which, a poor kid couldn't fuck up. You know what I mean? Like if a poor kid gets a car, gets fortunate enough, or he works his ass off to get a car, he's gonna baby the shit out of that car. Why is he gonna baby that car? Because that's all he has. He's not going to be out there racing and all that other type of shit because, he's got to get to work every day because he doesn't have the support system and stuff like that. So again, if you're at the bottom rung of society, there's a level of hopelessness that kicks in. And white people always want to sit there and, oh, black people, you all play the victim and you need to do this and do that. And they're not in the same position. They're not in the same position. Even if they say, well, I was poor and I grew up and my dad was alcoholic and everything else like that. Yeah. And when you go to an interview, the man sitting behind the desk is white. There's plenty of white people that'll sit there and recognize that you're a hard worker and they'll take pity on you and, they'll hook you up. Okay. White people act like they do the same thing, but unfortunately, a lot of them will just, they'll look at you and they'll just, size you up or whatever, and they'll say nah, and that's the end of it, and yeah, every once in a while they'll grab, they always do this, like the extreme shit. Notice how extreme, it has to be before it's like white people will help you out, or white people will take pity on you, or some shit like that. Like where you get a guy, he walks 8 miles to work and home every day. You know what I mean? Like, you ever seen those shit? And co-workers pulled their money together to buy him a car. You know, they'll love to show stuff like that, right? It's like, look how hard he's working and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, nobody asked the question, why should anybody be working that hard and they ain't got shit to show for it? How is it that you can work that hard? And again, America is a system of highways and roads and all this other stuff, right? That's how most of this country is. If you're not like smack dab in the middle of the city, okay, you can't afford not to have a vehicle, okay? And so it's like, nobody's asking the question, well, why should anybody be working and not be able to afford a car? Because if you're working and you can't afford a car, then it's like, damn, what else can't you afford? Like, what does your refrigerator look like? You know, where are you living? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you even have a cable television or anything? Like, how do you even get the news? Like, do you have Wi-Fi internet? How do you even apply to jobs? Do you have a cell phone? Like, these are all like just basic necessities, you know? And people think that somehow we should have this population in America that's living, you know, this sort of substandard, subsistence, you know, barely scraping by, a rock's throw away from homelessness, and that, you know, we can look at them and say that, you know, they're better than the people that say, man, fuck this bullshit. You know, like they want to turn people who are actually suckers, they want to turn them into heroes. And say, look at them, look how hard they're working. And then when they get called out on it, then they want to reward them. But they only want to reward them in the face of the masses of people who recognize that it's bullshit. And then they go, oh, well, see, you know, we gave him a free car because of his hard work and diligence. And maybe if you walk 8 miles to work every day, maybe you'll get a free car. Like, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. But yet, this is what people throw out there. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. This goes back and ties into why you see white men committing suicide all over the place. They buy into this American apple pie dream bullshit. You know, they subscribe to all this extreme right, you know, media perspective. You know, all the black people are lazy and they don't do this and they don't do that and they're all fucked up and da 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 and that's why they are where they are. No other reason. That's why they are where they are. Then when shit happens in the economy and white people suffer and they flounder of no fault of their own. You know what I mean? Like, this whole coronavirus this shit cannot be blamed on any group of people and ideas that, oh, they're lazy or they're this or they're that. How would you even draw such a conclusion? Motherfuckers literally are told you can't come to work. Okay? Then after like this shit goes on for months, then the employer's like, look, I can't afford to pay you guys. I got to let you guys go. Right? And then you lose your job. Then the bankers and the accreditors are knocking down your door. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's because you're lazy. You see? But black people have been told that. Right? And again, you know, it's like you get the black people that's like, man, I'd rather go out here and flip these keys and sell these drugs than work for fucking peanuts. Right? Which is no different than the white folks that are out there, you know, hey, there's jobs to be had, but certain jobs white folks ain't willing to work. Or they're not going to work for those type of wages. White people fight for the hell out of their wages. The hell out of their wages. You know what I mean? And I keep having to remind white people that y'all had to fight for 40-hour work weeks and full medical and dental and vacations and all that shit. You had to fight for that shit. If it was up to the fat cats at the turn of the last century, you know, they would have had children working, you know, in factories and shit, missing fingers and all that stuff. Go look at the origin of child labor laws. Go look at the soot-covered faces of children. You know what I mean? So when people sit there and they want to tell me about how, you know, white people are so fair and just and just naturally moral and righteous, it's bullshit. Bullshit. White people don't give a fuck about white people. White people only give the illusion of giving a fuck about other white people in the face of other groups. They only give the illusion of that shit. Why? Because that keeps you off of their back and puts you on the backs of the other people that are lower on the totem pole in this whole system, in this whole hierarchy, that have a problem with where their position is. When this nation, this country, this society sells the idea that it's a meritocracy, sells this idea, may the best man or best woman win. You know what I mean? Like, look, perfect example. I had to explain this to one of my white colleagues, and I used it as a beautiful example. I was like, look at racial groups like corporations, and then you'll understand how white supremacy is real. And he was like, how do you figure? I'm like, look at freaking what's going on with Apple and Epic Games right now. You know, Epic Games, which is basically the developer for Fortnite, right? Fortnite, billions of dollars, everybody's playing Fortnite. Fortnite is the shit. All these freaking Generation Z people are playing Fortnite, right? And Apple wants their 3%, just like, or 30%. Just like when you have a live chat on YouTube, YouTube wants 30%, right? So when you see Kevin Samuels and people are like, oh, $100, $50, Kevin Samuels is only getting, what is that? 70% of that $100. He's only getting $70. The other 30% goes to YouTube. So when you give your $100, Google is taking 1/3 of that bitch. You see? Or a little less than 1/3, but you get my point. So that's what Google is taking. And so Apple is doing the same thing with Epic Games, and they have this rule: you cannot have your own store and basically get money, directly to you, circumventing our economy, right? Basically the same thing that Bitcoin was trying to do. Same thing they took out Gaddafi for, because of the Mataba conference and him wanting to get the African states and the Arab states to, go to a gold bullion. You see, because that would have fucked up the white man's system and the white man's economy and all that Rothschild stuff. It would have fucked it all up if they went to a gold bullion, right? Because, the Western economies, the International Monetary Fund and everything, they operate on fractional reserve banking, where they just simply print more fiat currency. You see? Right? Because there's not enough gold around in order to create the situation of constant lending and constant generating of interest. The more they can lend, the more they can charge interest. Muhahaha. That's how they make money, out of thin air. Right? And that's what this whole coronavirus is threatening the old system, and about to create a new system. Right, where there's this whole, standardized, standard income and sort of stuff, where digitized currency, you hear people talking about that, right? Because, right now, people are trying to figure out how they're going to live and work and operate. Now, I'm not here to say whether that's a good or a bad thing, but I'll say that, like anything else, when something is so sophisticated like that, usually there's a mechanism of control to it. And so going back to, Apple and Epic Games and all that, they're trying to control the economy. That's what they're controlling. They're controlling the economy. They're like, no. We want our 30%. You're going to give us our 30%. We're not allowing you to do this. And so what did they do? They banned Fortnite from Apple products. You see? So it's like, again, that's how capitalism works. Now, is Google being is Apple being racist against Epic Games? Well, obviously racist wouldn't be the right term, but they're definitely being discriminatory. Right? They're definitely controlling the system, saying, you will pay me. even though we didn't make the game, we didn't create the game, but we got this platform, and you will pay me, and there's no way of getting around it. And if you try to come up with a way of getting around it, we will bury you. We will do everything in our power to stop you, because we cannot allow this to happen, because then everybody else will try to do the same thing. So Fortnite, you're gone. And I'm saying, if you think the same thing doesn't go on between races and ethnic groups that goes on in corporate America, and the war between businesses, and that's the whole thing. Like, there's aspects of racism that are not about, hatred. Yeah, when you see somebody walking around Ku Klux Klan hat and screaming, I hate black people and all that other stuff, right? Like, yeah, that's the obvious hate part. But the actual effective portion of racism, the ultimate effects of racism don't have to be hatred filled. People don't understand that. It's a byproduct of how the system works. You're at the bottom. You started at the bottom, and we control the top, and we want to stay at the top, which means that you're always going to be at the bottom relative to us, which means that we're always going to create, these sort of mechanisms that are going to maintain us in the dominant position. And it's not going to be as fluid of upward mobility as you think it is, which goes back to the lies of it's just about hard work and personal responsibility. And that's bullshit. And a lot of white people, too many white people, have bought into that. They've drank the Kool-Aid on that. And then you see corporations, telling a bunch of lies, telling a bunch of bullshit, and they're over there taking the company overseas, and they got all these liquidators coming in. I was watching some Vice thing. They were talking about they had a coal mine in West Virginia, or no, East Kentucky. They had a coal mine in East Kentucky. They told the employees, okay, we can't pay you, whatever the economy, and they laid people off. But then they had some train that kept coming in that was taking out the coal, like millions of dollars of coal. So let me get this right. So all the coal that we mined and we did a whole bunch of hard work for, you're not going to give us a paycheck for that shit, but you just think you're going to, we can't pay you and we're shutting operations down. But all that coal that you dug up, hey, we might as well come in and collect it, and all millions of dollars of it. But in the process, we're not writing you a check. And the coal miners went up and they was like, nah, fuck that shit. And they started blocking the railroads. Go watch the shit. It's on Vice. Just type in coal miners, East Kentucky, whatever. They've been going in the coal mining area, with the hillbillies, for a while. And quiet as kept, hillbillies are not the same as rednecks, and hillbillies are not necessarily as racist as rednecks. There is a distinction there, because I've come across a lot of hillbillies, and a lot of them don't give a fuck about race. Like, they give a fuck about their job and working, and they don't get caught up in that bullshit. That's not to say that they don't say certain things, but a lot of them are not on that shit as much as the rednecks. The rednecks, the ones that from the, the below the Mason-Dixon line, and the ones that, Confederate state this and Confederate state that and everything. That's different. Because there's that history between black people and white people. Black people don't live in Appalachia. So they don't really, they hear shit about black people and see shit on TV and everything, but they don't interact with them because black people don't live in Appalachia. So it's different than, let's say, white folks in, Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi and all that other shit. That's where you see a lot of the clashing going on. But the hillbillies, not so much. I'm not saying that you won't find, I wouldn't want to be just out there by myself, okay? But I'm just saying a lot of them, they don't have that type of animus, right? But, the whole thing is just a clusterfuck, if you ask me. Like, just the whole thing, like, just getting people to understand, shit. And the media is not helping. The media is out here, to get clicks and likes and generate news and a buzz, and that's why they allowed for comment sections, right? Because people, I want to give these people a piece of my mind, right? So they go and they keep posting stuff. They call it news, and people go in there. It's got their leanings and their biases in it, and then the people go and they're looking for bias confirmation, and they go in the comment section and they start typing up a storm, right? That generates clicks, and likes, right? And so then you get people that every day, and I can say this because this goes on in the gun community. You know what I mean? The same media that doesn't like, that wants to push gun control, if you become a gun rights advocate and you're looking for like updates on what's going on with the laws and everything else like that, they'll give you an update, and they'll act like you'll read it and they'll say, we're stating the facts and da 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 da, and then somewhere in there it'll be like, and we must curb gun violence and da 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 da, and you're like, can I just get the facts? Like, can you just tell me about how the Ninth Circuit Court smacked down, the magazine ban? Can you just tell me the facts? Like, I don't need to hear all this drivel about how, large capacity magazines are the weapon of choice for mass shooters, and I don't need to hear all that bullshit. You know what I mean? But again, since, Second Amendment is a hot topic and people want some sort of news, they'll post that type of shit, even though they're totally against it. You would think that they don't want people to know that there's winning cases and stuff like that. Well, I guess maybe the other people would want to know, but they want to, like, even in New Jersey, like when they changed the law, they didn't tell anybody that they changed the law. There's people are walking around New Jersey right now still got large capacity magazines, or at least what it was before, which was 15, because they don't know. You know what I mean? And I know somebody in particular, somebody white, who, their son, had made some threats, and, they fucking red flagged his ass, and they went to the house, and, they were like, the cops basically were like, we know that there's guns in the house because, you got to register your shit in Jersey. We got to take the guns because your son who's living with you is on some other shit. And so because of that, they went and they took the guns, and the cop, told the father. The cop was like, the father had, I think he had a 17 round Glock magazine, which was already over the previous magazine limit that Jersey had before, which was 15. And the cop told him, you need to, do something with that. Didn't arrest him, didn't charge him, because he knows this man's fucking, 60 years old, and he's not up on the news or whatever. He's had that gun, that gun sat in the closet and collected dust for God knows how long. Is he really trying to ruin this man's, the rest of his life, and take him to jail and charge him with a felony, that you can serve up to, 3 to 5 years for in Jersey? Is he trying to do all that? Fuck no, he's not trying to do that. He's not trying to do any of that. He's like, man, do something with this. You're not supposed to have this, put this away, whatever. You know what I mean? So that's what ended up, happening. And I've heard numerous cases like that. Again, police officers have their own discretion and shit like that, and I remember what I was going to say. Yeah. The other thing I was going to say, going back to the Inglewood situation, not every community has the same police issues. And that's one of the issues with Black Lives Matter, on the, some of the generalizations about, like, example, I'm in a, predominantly white community. Some of the cops know me, the EMTs know me. Again, they know that I have firearms. Like, they know this shit, right? They know what type of vehicle I drive. They see me, all this stuff. And, I've never had any problems. I haven't been spread eagle on the ground, handcuffed, none of that shit. You don't even hear stories about that where I'm at, right? And honestly, this is where, like, class and race collide, because I think classism has a lot to do with it. I told y'all about the one time I got, pulled over on the damn coming across the Betsy Ross Bridge, and that cop, he pulled me over, made me do the alphabet. I did have a couple drinks in my system. I got to the LMNOP. The end of the alphabet, because LMNOP is what they listen for, because that's what people start slurring. But I got to the end of the alphabet, and fucked it up. And, he looked at my license and looked at the, where I was residing. And that was a different part of New Jersey. But I'm saying, he saw that I wasn't from Camden. I wasn't from, North Philly. And he was like, you're one of the good guys. I was like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? I didn't say that. I was thinking it. He took my license, looked at it, and threw it right back at me. And then was like, have a good day. Probably because he didn't want to deal with the bullshit, right? Same thing. Like when I get pulled over, all my shit is laminated. My registration is laminated. My license, that doesn't need to be laminated because it's already pretty much laminated. But I'm saying my license and my registration and my insurance are all laminated. When I hand them laminated documents, I like 9 times out of 10 they give me a warning. And because they know, they're like, oh, this motherfucker laminates his shit like it's all organized. Fuck, I don't want to have to go and show up to court because this is the type of motherfucker that goes, I just want somebody to pay the ticket, okay, fulfill my quotas, and that's it. I don't want to have to go and show up to court and all this other shit. Like, it's bullshit. I ain't doing all that, right? Because they got to reduce the shit when the police officer that pulled you over doesn't show up to court to, contest, challenging or contesting, your ticket. Right. So then they got to, the prosecutor. Oh, okay, fine. All that stuff because the cop didn't show up. You see. So I'm just saying, like, class, has definitely benefited me. Being able to be an articulate black man. I'm using finger quotes. An articulate black man and speak proper English has definitely benefited me. When I get to open my mouth, you can see it. They're like, oh. Shit, I thought I was dealing with a nigga, right? They're like, oh, fuck, okay, all right, we're gonna handle this differently because they it's easy for them to get people caught up in the system that don't know to dot their I's and cross their T's and don't understand how they need to do things. It's easy for them, to screw people over. I'm telling you, go next time you get a ticket. Go to court. Go to court for your ticket and then look around and see who's in the court. It ain't nothing but poor whites, poor Hispanics, and poor blacks. You will not see the person and you'll see the occasional wealthy white woman who pulled up an S-Class Mercedes-Benz that her husband bought her, who's in there because she got a DUI and she's being shamed because she was driving, with, a fraction of a point over the alcohol limit. Like, you'll see that. You'll see that. She looks so out of place. You'll see that. You know what I mean? But everybody else, like, they don't even know to come to court with like proper attire. They probably don't even have it. They don't even come with a button-down shirt, let alone, a tie. You know what I mean? And you could tell the people that don't know how to wear even that attire, because you ever see the guys, they got the button-down shirt and they got the tie and they got the black, slacks on that they got from Walmart, but they're still sagging. I'm like, bro, like, why are you still sagging in court? Like they're still trying to be cool and wear their pants like lower in court. And I'm like, bro, like, no, dude, no. No, the judge takes all that shit into consideration. It's fucked up, but that's what they do. People make snap judgments, and they like, you're just a fuck boy, and they that's what they do. You know what I mean? Cap got the book thrown at him by a black female judge who, he just had the wrong face, as his father said, because Cap he was sleeping in the park, fell asleep in the park. Female cop came up and, had other cops pull up on him, and she gave him a citation that he had to summons and go to court for. He went to court. The judge threw the book at him. Probably because he looked like some light-skinned dude that broke her heart. Like, again, Cap being accused of, pussy he never even had. I know your type. You're probably out here just you probably were sleeping in the park in the car because you're a black woman that you cheated on threw you out of her apartment. That's probably what she thought, because maybe she had the same thing. Y'all light-skinned men, y'all think that y'all can just get on over on us dark-skinned women, and she threw the book at him. When in reality, Cap was, sleeping in the park because he didn't have the support system from his parents. So he was doing all type of double shifts, and he figured, why drive all the way over in this direction, and then come back. It's like, nah, I'll just be here, get shut my eyes for maybe 5-6 hours, and then get up and go to work tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the type of grind Cap was on. He was on some grind shit. right? And cop threw the book at him, judge threw the book at him, and just like my other white colleague, the one that I told you about, when he was in court, when it came to child custody, like he was down and out, lost his jobs, or couldn't get a regular job because of the domestic charge that he caught, because he put hands on his ex-wife because, he confronted her about her cheating, her infidelity. So he put hands on her. Not saying it's right, wrong, or indifferent, whatever. I'm just saying that's what happened. So, he's going into court looking like a monster. And because he's this polished looking white guy, the judge, who was a black woman, assumed that, oh, I know you got it like that. You're a white man. You got it like that. You're making money like that. You're here trying to willfully impoverish yourself. So what did that black judge do to him? Threw the fucking book at him. You have 24 hours to bring $1,500 here to this court. Otherwise, we will throw you in jail. And he really didn't have it like that. Like, he laid out the shit of how he was down and out and how he couldn't even get a job at the car dealership. Soon as they ran the background check and they saw that he had that domestic charge, they just, oh yeah, we'll give you a call, blah, 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 blah. And, he was done. He was done. Catching a domestic charge is again, women and children are sacred. You fuck with women and children, it's cancel culture. Hell, I mean, just any felony for that matter is cancel culture. But those two misdemeanor, well, that's not actually, it's not a misdemeanor. Fucking with children is a felony. But I'm saying domestic violence is a misdemeanor. But the way it's categorically treated is as a felony. That's how people see it. Oh, you're just a wife beater. No context. No, hey, my wife was cheating on me and I got in my feelings and emotions and I put hands on her. No, you're a monster. You just, you walk in the fucking house every day and like Bill Burr said, you're like, fucking tuna casserole. And then you just throw the plate at the wall and then you just stand over her and beat her and drag her by her hair while she's screaming, to not harm her. Like that's what people picture when you catch a domestic violence charge. You know what I mean? Not some shit like she either did some foul shit or maybe she started the fight, but again, you're a man and you're stronger than her, and so you hit her and you laid her the fuck out. And so the cops get there and she's knocked out on the floor and but you got a bruise that she hit you over the head with a pan. It doesn't matter. You're going to go to jail. Because they're going to say, well, you're bigger and stronger, and so therefore, you know how that's going to play out. You're not going to win. So, I mean, these are the things that go on, but I'm done. I'm pretty much done. I don't want to overextend this video. So that's all I got to say. But, the whole thing is one big fat clusterfuck, if you ask me, and nobody's listening to anybody else. Everybody's got all the answers. People want to, not extend compassion that they want extended to themselves, not extend understanding that they want extended to themselves, and this is what you end up with. It's instead of calling out bullshit when bullshit presents itself, as opposed to generalizing and claiming that absolutely everybody is on bullshit. Or when you want to say that, well, I think the majority of people are on bullshit. Okay, if you want to say that bullshit has now become a culture, then let's look at the origins of the culture of that bullshit. But nobody wants to do that either. It's not that generalizations are false. It's that again, people like to condemn people and not go back to the root of why this even exists. If it's a problem and it's become a culture at this point, well, then you got to change the conditions so that you can change the culture. You can't not change the culture without changing the conditions. But because otherwise you end up with a situation where the culture, what used to just be a couple of people, then turns into a culture, then it turns into a belief system and an ideology. And once it gets to belief system levels, you can't fuck with that. You know what I mean? Like a situation like example with black women. I got a bad attitude because, my daddy didn't do the right thing, or because, you know, the community is broken and we live in poverty, right? That can be corrected. Okay? But shit like, you know, matriarchy all the way, and black women were leading black men into battle riding a zebra, and the divine wombiverse and divine female principles and all that other shit, that cannot be corrected because that's a belief system. That's at the core. But anyway, I'm done with this video. That's my video. SWP out.